This is the Locked On Jets podcast here on Wednesday evening, April 28th. I'm your host, John B. from GangGreenNation.com, thanking you for joining us, a special bonus episode as Aaron Rodgers was introduced to the New York media this afternoon. He held his first press conference as a member of the New York Jets. The trade is official. Aaron Rodgers is now officially a member of the New York Jets. These press conferences really do not typically reveal much in the way of useful information. There are a lot of cliches. There's a lot of I'm glad to be here, I'm excited to join the team, and we got a lot of that in this press conference on Wednesday afternoon. There were a couple of interesting points that were made through the press conference, though, and I wanted to talk about some of them here. I think the first point is that Rodgers indicated that he is likely to participate quite a bit in the offseason program. He says that he wants to be around the team facility a lot. And to me, that was actually pretty significant for a couple of reasons. Now, I was not expecting Rodgers to participate much at all in the offseason program because his last couple of years in Green Bay, he was absent from it. It's not something that's required. In fact, I think it's the type of thing that gets overstated when a player misses it. People question the player's commitment to the team. They question whether they're working for the next season to get ready. These guys in the NFL, they know how to prepare. The offseason program is optional. And I was actually expecting Rodgers to miss it. And on top of that, I was expecting the local media to maybe go a little overboard criticizing him for missing it, because it's really not that significant of a deal. But I am happy to hear Rodgers is going to the offseason program from this standpoint. You could get carried away with this over-analysis of things like this, but I think it shows on some level a commitment to this team, and that's something that you've heard from people close to Rodgers over the last couple days about how he's fully committed to the Jets, that he's motivated. And the reason that's significant is, for me, a big part of whether this trade will ultimately be successful for the New York Jets is what sort of mindset are you getting from Aaron Rodgers? Are you getting an Aaron Rodgers who's at the end of his career, who's kind of checked out, who's just cashing another check, making some more money before the end of his career? Or are you getting a motivated Aaron Rodgers? Are you getting an Aaron Rodgers who's excited to be a member of the New York Jets? And, of course, we won't know for sure until the season plays itself out. But there are little pieces here and there that are suggesting that Aaron Rodgers is going to be very motivated. Is this a guy who's at the end of his career who's, playing out the string, who's, kind of just looking to retirement? Or does he want that second championship? Does he want to join Peyton Manning and Tom Brady as quarterbacks who have led multiple teams to Super Bowl wins? Can he be the quarterback to end this long, not the 12-year playoff drought, the 54-year Super Bowl drought? Can he be the guy who brings the Jets to a championship? And if the Jets get a motivated Aaron Rodgers, they get an Aaron Rodgers who is engaged, who is focused on building relationships in the locker room, but beyond that, an Aaron Rodgers who gets himself into top shape, who is ready to go out there, prove Green Bay wrong, prove the Packers wrong, show that he's not finished, and return to something resembling the quarterback he was not that long ago, 2020, 2021, where he was the MVP of the league. That's the type of guy who makes the Jets a very interesting team in 2023 and perhaps beyond. So, little bit of information there. I don't want to go too far. You can obviously overstate this stuff, and we've seen this happen through the years. I mean, I think it's an annual right of the offseason where you hear a story about how a player has been working out, or he posts some sort of video to social media, or there's some story about how he's hired a big-name personal coach, and now this is going to change everything. And most of the time, it doesn't really impact the player's performance. But Aaron Rodgers is a guy we know can play very effectively. And he was a guy who, especially near the end of his tenure in Green Bay, I mean, there were issues there, clearly, that were impacting him. It feels like his relationship with the Green Bay Packers grew pretty negative. It became a tough relationship. It was one of those things that probably should have ended a couple of years ago, and those things can impact a player more than you realize. As I mentioned, Rodgers missed the offseason program the last couple of years, which wasn't a big deal in and of itself, but it may have been a bigger sign that perhaps the relationship between Rodgers and the Packers wasn't great, and perhaps, he was maybe a little checked out in Green Bay, and maybe sometimes a change of scenery does you a lot of good. So we'll keep our eye on this with Aaron Rodgers. But I think that was a really interesting development. I think it's the type of thing that could potentially give us some sort of indication about where his mindset is heading into his first season with the New York Jets. Will that first season be the last season with the Jets? Well, we don't really know. And Aaron Rodgers, he made a little hint at it, but he really did not give us a whole lot as far as his future plans. I'm kind of happy he didn't, though, and I'll explain why as we continue this special bonus Wednesday edition of the Locked On Jets podcast. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Jets is brought to you by Built Bar. The NFL Draft begins tomorrow night. You're going to want to make sure you have plenty of great snacks for the event. The Jets currently hold the 15th overall pick. May I suggest Built Bar? It's the best tasting protein bar on the market. What makes these bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in some incredible flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And it's tough to say how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And even better, they're healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein on most of these bars. And now you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Well, you can still get your specialty flavors at Built.com. So head to Walmart today, head to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff. Or if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box of hit flavors like brownie batter puff and churro puff. You can thank me later. This is the Locked On Jets podcast, a bonus Wednesday edition after Aaron Rodgers' introductory press conference. A lot of cliches from this press conference, as is expected. I mean, it's very difficult to lose the press conference. I mean, some people have done it through the years. Adam Gase, of course, had that infamous disaster where his eyes were going all over the place. But ultimately, the press conference is pretty much a check-the-box event. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you perform in the press conference. Nobody really remembers it. I guess people remember Adam Gase, but if Adam Gase had won, people would not look back on that press conference as anything significant. It's only when you do poorly that people look back at your introductory press conference. There were a couple of things I thought were interesting from Aaron Rodgers, and there's one thing that one thing I really liked that he said. Let's think of it. There's two things I really liked that he said. The first was he was asked about wearing number 12, which of course he's worn throughout his NFL career with the Packers, and number 12 happens to be retired with the New York Jets. That was Joe Namath's number, the greatest player in franchise history. Namath actually said before the trade that he would be willing to see Rodgers play in it. He would hand Rodgers the number 12 to play in, but Rodgers will wear number 8. He's not going to take number 12. He said that's Broadway Joe's number. So I love that. If Aaron Rodgers is trying to win me over, that's a great first move from Aaron. The second thing that I really enjoyed what he did, though, is he did not commit beyond 1 year. Now, I don't love that he didn't commit beyond 1 year because for all the Jets gave up, you really hope he's going to play more than 1 year. You really hope he's going to play more than 1 year at a very high level. But he really did not answer any questions about it. He made one reference that I'm not viewing this as a one and done type deal, but I like the fact he did not take the bait because I think there are people in the media that are trying to get him to commit one way or another to playing more than 1 year with the Jets. And I'd love for him to play more than 1 year, but I think he was being honest. I actually appreciated the honesty because I think a lot of players would say, "Oh, I'm definitely committing for more than 1 year." The truth is, he's 39 years old. A 39-year-old player, it's always a year-to-year situation. And even if he had said today that, "Oh, I'm definitely playing another year," he could really mean it. It's a long way off from when he needs to make the decision. There's a lot that can happen between now and next January, February, March, whenever it is he'll make the final decision. It could be a bad year. It could be a year where he just gets beat up and he just decides, I don't want to play anymore. And he could really mean it. Now, right now he could say, "I'm playing more than 1 year," and he could really mean it. But things have a way of changing, and we've seen this throughout recent sports history. I can name plenty of players who made a promise before a season, and then during the season things change, and there's a very legitimate reason for those things changing. So I have to say I really appreciated the fact that he did not take the bait. I'll put it that way. He did not take the bait. He was trying. A couple of the questions I think tried to pressure him into giving an answer. The truth is, it's a year-to-year proposition. That's only fair. The Jets gave up what they gave up, and I almost feel like there are some people out there in the media that are trying to justify. They're trying to justify everything the Jets gave up, saying, "Oh, he'll definitely be here more than 2 years." He'll answer that. It's not Rodgers' job to justify the trade. It's his job to justify the trade from the performance he provides on the field, but it's not his job to justify the trade by making promises right now about what he's going to do in the future. So I have to say, I don't know how much it matters, but I really did appreciate that answer. Now, at this point in time, we're still waiting on the contract details. Rodgers actually had to restructure his contract with the Packers before he was traded to the Jets. So at the moment, he's like, the Jets owe him like a little over $1 million for 2023. They owe him like $107 million for 2024, which obviously that deal's going to have to be restructured again. The Packers redid that deal for salary cap reasons, so they would not get hit with any more dead money after he was traded, because they already had $40 million of dead money because of a past money they paid Rodgers, a past signing bonus. So they did not want to add anything else to that $40 million. So they had to redo the deal and essentially reduce his salary this year to like $1 million and increase his salary next year to like $107, $108 million. I think we can probably guess that the Jets are not going to pay him $107 million, $108 million next year, and they're probably going to pay him more than $1 million this year. So we're still waiting on the final terms. One of the big questions is whether or not Rodgers will take a pay cut to save the Jets a little money both this year and in the future, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, that's all for our special bonus episode of the Locked On Jets podcast. If you're new to the show, this is a daily podcast covering the New York Jets. We have new episodes each day, Monday through Friday, through the week, and bonus episodes like this as news dictates. If you enjoy the show, hit the subscribe button where you're watching or listening so that you'll never miss an episode. Please give this episode a big thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, a 5-star review if you're listening on a podcast source. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Wednesday night. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's draft day. We'll have an episode talking about the Jets and the NFL draft.